I'm Alan Colmes. You normally start the show on the phones, going right to our calls, but we have a live in-studio person in the studio. So before we get to our calls, let me introduce Jesse Ventura. How you doing, Jesse? Thanks for being here tonight.
Good, Alan.
Jesse
nice
Ventura.
to be here.
Your book is Democrats and Republicans. Got to learn how to say that without let it flow off the tongue. No more gangs in government. You've had that out now. I think it's now in paperback. Is that right?
No, it's still hardcover.
Still hardcover.
We've just done 2 of them because they released it earlier this year, which I opposed. But you know how book companies are; they want to get out there because I said this is a fall book. It's a political book. Release it during the election.
Now
so we're going to do another promo tour here during
you're doing
the election.
some book signings here in the New York area throughout the weekend.
Yeah. Yep.
But you don't fly anymore, so you took the train from Minnesota to be here.
Took a day and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I refuse to fly because I'm tired of being treated like a criminal at airports. I have metal in my body, so when I pass through the metal detector, I could go through naked. It's going to go off. So then I'm subjected either to the X-ray machine or the sexual assault. And I actually sued the TSA and Homeland Security under my Fourth Amendment rights. Yeah. I spent $20,000 to go to court, and the judge threw it out and said she didn't have jurisdiction. Now, how could a federal judge not have jurisdiction over a constitutional question?
So what would it take for you to get you to fly again?
Nothing. I will never fly again commercially.
Ever?
Ever.
Even if the TSA changes its policies?
Well, if they let me get on the plane without treating me like a criminal, then I will.
So you have a home in Mexico, too, so you'll drive 3,000 miles.
I always have. I never flew down there anyway. Minnesota press said that to me when I said I won't fly again. One of the cocky press said, well, how are you going to get to your house in Mexico? I said, the same way I've gotten there the last 6 years in a row. I drive. I don't fly to Mexico.
And you don't talk to the Minnesota press, do you?
Yeah, I do now occasionally.
Yeah, you didn't when you were governor.
Well, I cut them off with about a year to go after they attacked my children. When they attacked my children, I quit talking to them.
So let's talk about you don't really, in fact, the heart of Democrats and Republicans. You don't think it matters whether Obama's elected or Romney's elected.
Not a bit.
It doesn't make a whit of difference.
No, because you're going to get the same government regardless. I mean, let's go back to George Bush. My quote made the USA Today. The only difference I see between the Bush administration and the Obama administration is the color of the president's skin.
So. All right, but you really don't think there's a difference? I mean, Romney wants to cut taxes for the rich. He's been much more of a warmonger than Obama.
Well, let's wait. He
wants to move Medicare to a...
Wait a minute now. Obama okayed the cutting of taxes for the rich. He went along with it.
He had no choice. He wants to at least go back to the Clinton tax rates for those in the upper income.
Well, and Obama said he'd get us out of the wars. He didn't. He said he'd close Gitmo. He hasn't.
Well, I don't think we had everything he's done, but he got us out of Iraq, which was already.
We're not out of Iraq.
We're not combating it. We're not in combat in Iraq.
Yes, we are.
We are in combat in Iraq?
Yeah, we got the mercenaries over there.
The combat troops are gone.
But the mercenaries are there, the private contractors.
The contractors are there.
Yeah, well, see, that's what we do now. We now, because we don't have a draft, we have mercenaries who fight for us, and mercenaries get paid huge amounts of money.
So you're saying private armies are there fighting?
Yeah.
Hired armies?
Yes.
They're there rebuilding. They're spending our taxpayer dollars building schools and hospitals.
And why should we be doing that?
I agree with you. We destroy a country, then we
rebuild it.
We build it.
Yeah.
And yet the same people resent spending that money here to build infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Afghanistan, Obama says, will be out by 2014.
I hope so, but we'll still have private contractors there.
But Romney is talking war with Iran. He's rattling sabers about Iran.
Yeah.
Making nice with Netanyahu, who would love to go to war with Iran any minute.
Yeah.
So
it's going to happen.
Well, I fear a Romney president.
It'll happen even if Obama's in there.
Why would it happen?
Because something will happen. There'll be a false flag operation that'll force us to go in. Iran will do something, and then we'll sell that. Whether Iran really does it or not, we won't know. But they'll tell us they did something.
You think Obama wants war in Iran?
I don't think it's his choice.
Whose choice is it?
Because we're not run by our government anymore.
Who's running things?
The corporations. With the Supreme Court decision, we're fascists now.
Because of the Citizens United decision.
Yeah, because they now said corporations have the same rights as individuals, and money's free speech. Look at this scenario, Alan. China could elect our next president.
Because of the money.
Yeah. because all they'd have to do is form a corporation, pump billions of dollars in for a candidate, and get that candidate elected. Because the bad thing about it is they don't even have to declare where the money comes from.
But who makes the decision to go to war? Certainly the corporation doesn't make a decision. A person has to make a decision, we're going to start a war.
Well, who owns the Democrats and Republicans? The corporations do. Go to the two conventions. You'll see the same lobbyists
I was there.
with,
I was one of them.
with suitcases full of money paying off both sides. Alan, they've created a system that is based completely upon bribery.
You're supporting Gary Johnson, the
Yes.
Libertarian Party candidate.
Yep.
You don't think he can win?
Certainly I don't think he can, but then again, they didn't think I could either.
Right, but
Here's the deal, though. He can't win because they won't allow him in the debates. Now, isn't it interesting? They tell us in the private sector that competition is good, right?
Correct.
Yet in the public sector, competition is no good. We have not heard a third voice in a presidential debate now for 20 years.
Ross Perot.
92.
And they don't want that
years.
to happen again because he got,
Exactly.
17% of the vote.
Exactly.
Took it away from
And
George.
in fact, if he wouldn't have dropped out, he might have been our president.
I don't
Because
think
he was
Perot.
leading. He was leading when he dropped out in the polls.
Well, he was considered a little too nutty. I think he
No, the media made him nutty. They always do that to the third-party candidate. The media is part of it, too.
Well, doesn't the
Because
media...
who owns the media? The same corporations.
So who do you think the media wants to be president this time?
Doesn't matter. They own both of them.
Right. Do you think Obama's going to win?
I don't know. I don't care.
You don't really care. You really think it makes no difference? Because I really
No.
see a major difference between these two parties.
I don't.
You don't think today's Republican Party, which has moved far to the right, you don't, and I know you're an independent. You don't. So, but this party has moved far to the right from where it was when you were governor of Minnesota.
Maybe.
There's a big distinction between that and where the Democrats are now.
Really?
Yeah. On economics, on a whole range of issues, on health care, the Affordable Health Care Act.
It's all an act. It's pro wrestling in front of you and the people.
Wait a minute, wrestling's not real?
No, absolutely not.
Wait a
It's
minute, my
show.
whole world is shattered.
It's a show. No, Vince admitted that years ago
Yeah.
so we could get the commissions off our back. But
Yeah.
the point is, I taught it at Harvard. One of my classes at Harvard was how pro wrestling prepares you for politics. And the point is, it's just like pro wrestling. In front of you and in front of all the people, they're adversaries. Behind the scenes, they're all working together for, as Ralph Nader called it, the two-party dictatorship.
Do you think Obama and Romney get in the back room and kind of laugh it off, laugh and say, look, we're just putting one over on everybody?
No. They don't dare do that, just like they wouldn't dare let me and Hogan into the same room.
Because you would laugh about it.
Sure.
All right, we're going to take a break.
But we got to be adversaries in front of the public.
Lots to talk about with Jesse Ventura. I want to go to some of the issues facing us today. Jesse Ventura, his latest book, Democrats and Republicans, No More Gangs in Government. I'm Alan Colmes. Jesse Ventura is our guest. He is the former governor of Minnesota. He's now written Democrats and Republicans, No More Gangs in Government. He's had a career in broadcasting, career in professional wrestling, and now you're an author now. So
well, it's my fifth or sixth New York Times bestseller.
Right. You don't want to run for office again, though, do you?
I made this statement on this tour. I said in 2016, if a grassroots thing happens out there and they get me ballot access in all 50 states, and if they can guarantee me I'll be in the debates, I will run.
But you only get in the debates if you got to get 6% in the polls for that to happen.
Got to get 15
or 15%.
Yeah. Now isn't that unfair?
I'm thinking of the primary 6%.
Wait, in Minnesota, when I ran for governor, I had only 10% at the primary. 7 weeks later, I was the governor because they allowed me to debate.
Right.
See, if I reach the 15 threshold, then they'll raise it to 20.
Well, Gary Johnson
because
probably won't get 15.
Wait, who controls the debates? The Democrats and the Republicans.
Yeah, it used to be the League of Women Voters, but that's not the case
anymore. And they
anymore.
took it away because Perot scared the crap out of them.
Right, that's what
happened. So they took it away. Clinton and Dole made a deal in 96. Dole did not want Perot in the debates in 96 because it would erode from his conservative base. Clinton didn't want debates at all because he was so far ahead, debates could only bring him down. So they cut a deal to eliminate Perot. Clinton got to state when the debates would be and how many. Normally there's 3 presidentials. 96 there was only 2, and they were held the same night as the World Series by design.
Yeah, so nobody would watch it.
Exactly.
We're at 877-4ALAN, 877-367-2526 with Jesse Ventura. You work for the McMahons, Linda McMahon running for Senate. in Connecticut. But we were just talking about this off the air. You will not vote for either a Republican or a Democrat.
No, I never have, and never. I even
as much as you might like her, personally. But,
once they join the gang, they lose my vote. And by the way, they are like the street gangs because the Crips, their colors are blue. What's a blue state? That's a Democratic state. The Bloods, naturally, their color's red. What's a red state? A Republican state.
You think voter fraud is happening?
No.
You don't believe it?
It's a red herring.
I agree with you.
No, it's a total red herring.
Republicans are trying to make believe there's voter fraud in order to stop Democrats from voting.
There's as much voter fraud as there are people getting hit by lightning.
That's right. And you agree that it's really an effort to get people who might vote Democratic?
Absolutely. Not even Democratic. It's just to alienate poor people and people that can't afford to go out and buy a license with their picture on it.
But those are mostly Democrats, people who are going to vote Democratic.
Well,
it's mostly the red states.
Generally speaking, that's the case. But voter fraud is a complete red herring. The amount of voter fraud couldn't sway one election. I'll tell you what they need to do if you want honest elections. Get rid of electronic voting machines.
Do paper ballots?
Yes. Electronic voting machines can be hacked into like any other computer. Let me put it to you this way, Alan. Would you go to an ATM that didn't give you a receipt?
I get your point.
Well, electronic voting machine, say you press Barack Obama, you have no way of knowing if he got your vote. It could go to Mitt Romney if somebody's hacked into the machine.
Well, how do you know that someone won't hack into a paper ballot machine?
Well, because it's simple. You can hand count them. There's no way you can do a recount with electronic voting machines.
But the counters have to be honest. The people counting have to be honest.
Not with a voting machine, because all you get's a number like a adding machine. You don't get an individual ballot. They just say so-and-so got 4,000 votes, so-and-so got 2,000.
It's amazing to me that in all these years there's not a uniform way in voting across the country.
Why not the old way? You fill in a dot. You've been doing that since first grade. If you're not capable of taking a pencil and filling in a dot, then you shouldn't be voting anyway.
Let's talk about some issues here. The economy, they believe, everybody's saying that's what this election's about. Do you agree with that?
Probably.
Okay, so what would you do? What would Jesse Ventura do about the economy right now? What would you do about the implosion we had in 2008, which we're still climbing out of, and jobs is still a big issue?
Yeah, what would I do for the economy? Well, I would cut down government spending drastically. I would close all of our foreign military bases and shut them down. We're in 160-some countries. We're an empire. And I would bring all our men and women home back to the United States. Our military is so technically advanced today. Why do we need 6 or 8 bases in Japan, 6 or 8 bases in Germany, 6 or 8 bases in Korea? If I'm right, haven't those wars been over for 70 years?
And look at all the money we'd save by claiming. Gary Johnson agrees with that, by the way. But he'd cut everything, about 47. He'd cut everything. I would also cut the defense spending. Jesus, we spend more in defense of this country than the top 14 other countries do combined. That's right. Yeah.
Now, that's absurd. If we try being nicer and use good foreign policy, maybe everyone wouldn't hate us so bad and we wouldn't need all this defense.
And when Barack Obama does outreach, he gets accused of apologizing to other countries.
Well,
going on an
not from me, he
tour.
doesn't.
No, I'm telling you. That's what Romney's been
Do you know
saying.
when I was in Mexico, see, people need to understand, I live out of the country now about 4 to 5 months out of the year. And people need to see the United States from the outside looking in rather than the inside looking out. You know what the popular T-shirt was a number of years ago in Mexico all the young people were wearing? It was a picture of George Bush, and on the top it said, "Weapon of Mass Destruction."
Let's go to
Is that really how we want to be portrayed worldwide?
Bob in Salt Lake City with Jesse Ventura. Hi, Bob.
Oh, hi. Thank you for having me on.
Go ahead.
Yes, Alan, Jesse, I'm 62 years old, and I'm a truck driver, and I've been waiting my entire life for somebody to occupy the White House. It is the commander-in-chief. I've been waiting for the admiral's admiral, the general's general. Instead, I keep getting closer to Pee Wee Herman as opposed to, say, Colin Powell. Is our nation completely forgot what a commander-in-chief is supposed to do?
Are you saying we should only have a military person as president?
No, sir, that's not what I'm saying. We have 300 million people in this country, and I was trying to find names that somebody was that everybody was closely familiar with. In the military academies, they teach the young cadets commanding presence, where you walk in with confidence. It instills confidence in the troops, and I'm sure Mr. Ventura.
So you're saying you don't like our current choices, right?
Well, there's got to be, out of 300 million people, there should be some. I'd feel a lot more comfortable if we had somebody with the presence of, say, Colin Powell.
Well, one of a person like that sitting right next to Alan Colmes right now.
That would be you. Thank you for the call. You think you would fit that category?
Well,
but you want to be president?
I don't think I'd necessarily want to at this time, because the president's really an oxymoron. He stands for freedom, but he himself has none. And the most difficult thing for me would be that.
Yeah, you wouldn't have any freedom.
You don't have any freedom.
You'd live in a bubble.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
And that's the difficult thing about it. But if they tick me off bad enough, like I said, if they could get me ballot access in all 50 states and guarantee me the debates, I might do it for the challenge.
It's highly unlikely that a third party anytime soon is
I'm not talking third party. I'm talking Jesse Ventura individual.
Or someone who's not a Republican or Democrat. It's very unlikely that person, whoever it is, would become president.
Jesse can do it. I did it before. I can do it again.
You think you have a pathway to the presidency?
Yeah.
You'd have to get in the debates.
Yep. Let me debate. I always say if I can debate him, I can beat him.
But how likely a scenario is that?
Well, how likely scenario was it, Alan, that a former pro wrestler would beat Skip Humphrey, the biggest name of politics in Minnesota history?
Yeah.
Well, the name Humphrey, and beat Norm Coleman, the mayor of St. Paul. I did it.
Yeah, okay.
And I only raised $300,000. Imagine this, Alan. I made more money doing the job than what I spent to get it. You tell me any elected official in 50 years that can make that claim.
And if you, as someone who's not a Republican or Democrat, became president, you still have to work with a Congress composed mostly of Democrats or Republicans.
Yeah, unfortunately, the best form of government would be benevolent dictator.
Yeah,
but the key is
that's what Bush said.
No, but the key is you have to be benevolent. No, he just said dictator. He didn't say benevolent
dictator. He didn't say benevolent, right.
I said benevolent dictator, and you'd have to put term limits.
Yeah.
But see, then you could get anything done. If you needed a bridge built, you order it.
But our country doesn't work like that.
Well, I understand that, but that would be the perfect form of government, is to have a benevolent dictator. And put term limits. You can only be benevolent dictator 8 years.
I always appreciate you being here. The new book is Democrats and Republic. It's hard for me to say that.
You got to syllable it.
And Rebloodlicans. I've got to go home and practice.
Well, you're not alone. They all do it.
It's no more gangs in government. Jesse Ventura, I appreciate seeing you when you're in town. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Alan. It's always a pleasure, and maybe I'll surprise you in 2016.
You never know.
Can
we'll keep an eye on it.
Imagine me in the Oval Office?
It's an interesting thought.